mentioned to you, it is the big CIO debate which is coming up, and the topic being CIOs make excellent future CEOs. So let's see who is right and who is wrong. We'll have two teams here speaking for and against the motion. And just for that, I request Mr. Rajan Anandan, MD, Microsoft Corporation India, to please come on stage. He will be the debate chairperson. Good evening, sir. And along with him, I'm going to call out the team one, which I have with me, who's going to be speaking for the motion. We have Mr. Rajesh, Uppal, Maruti, Suzuki, India. Along with him, we have Mr. Ajay, Dhir, Jindal Steel, Mr. Hitesh, Arora, Max New York Life Insurance, and team two, which is going to be speaking against the motion, we have Mr. Vijay Sethi, Hero Honda, Mr. Ashok Wahi, Jaypee Business School, Mr. Rajeev Seoni, Ernst & Young. All right, gentlemen, the floor is open. I request Mr. Anandan to please chair the debate.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Let me first thank the CAI for inviting us and giving us an opportunity to be here with all of you today. And this is a very exciting community, and I congratulate all of you who have put it together over the last several years, and also wish all the best to the Delhi Governing Council for actually building out this community. I really do think how people and businesses collaborate, communicate, and build networks has fundamentally changed over the last several years, and I think I'm really excited to see all the web-based initiatives that you have underway to actually build a community in addition to all the face-to-face and in-person meetings. So as was just said, this is actually a pretty exciting new idea, I must say. It's the first time I've actually been in a debate in about 25 years. So this is actually I don't know about my colleagues who are here on the dais with me, but this is actually quite an interesting idea. So first of all, thank you for the innovation. Let me just say a few words, and then I'm going to open it up for the two teams here. I think the motion really is CIOs make excellent future CEOs. I've been in the technology industry for about 20 years or so now, and I would say that in the late 80s, early 90s, as I'm sure many of you remember, this wouldn't actually be a debate, because the role of a CIO was very, very different. In fact, even some of the largest corporations in the US or Europe really didn't have a meaningful CIO role. So I think the first interesting things to observe is we're actually debating about CIOs being CEOs of companies, and we actually do have examples around the world of CIOs actually becoming CEOs. In fact, at Microsoft, I don't know how many of you know this, but the chief operating officer of the company who runs our $60 billion company today and who's likely to be the next CEO is actually a CIO. Was the CIO of a company called Walmart, which all of you know, which is a retailer, then actually became the president of Sam's Club, which is a $30 billion business that he built from scratch, and then came to Microsoft and has been the CEO of Microsoft. So firstly, it's great that we're actually having this topic, which I think is a sign of the times, and in many ways represents how far IT has come in enabling businesses, and more importantly, increasingly giving real competitive advantage to businesses. So that's the motion. CIOs make excellent future CEOs. We do believe that as Microsoft, we've done a fair bit of research, made significant investments in understanding this topic, because CIOs obviously are very important to us. In fact, the only reason Microsoft today is Microsoft, and Microsoft and all other technology companies exist is because of all of you. So I think the leadership journeys that CIOs have taken and the career paths that CIOs have evolved over the years has been of extraordinary interest to us. And even in a country like India over the last 2 years, we've actually done a fair bit of work trying to research this topic and also as some of you have been, I think, participating in a number of the leadership conclaves and so on and so forth that we've had, have been exposed to some of the ideas that we've had and some of the knowledge building that we've had. So that's I think just our view, but more importantly, I think as all of you know, as over the last, I would say probably starting about 10 years ago, is when the role of the CIO started to change more from an enabler of a business to really a leadership role that facilitated the actual performance of a business, which is whether the business grows or not, how quickly the business grows, how profitable the business is. That's when really the journey started. And I must say, having now been in India for a couple of years, but also still being very close to the US and Europe, I would say since the economic slowdown started happening, we've seen an acceleration of the role of a CIO is able to play, especially the CIOs who've really stepped up to the plate in many ways in shaping the agenda. So I think over the last 2 years, I think this the possibility, if you will, which used to exist, which is the CIO making a very successful CEO, has increased. The odds of this happening has actually increased. So I think this is it's a very interesting time for this particular debate. So now let me with that short introduction, I'm going to kick it off. So let me just lay out the ground rules, if you will, and let you know how this is going to play out. So in terms of the motion is CIOs make excellent future CEOs, right? Speaking for the motion, we have Mr. Rajesh Uppal from Maruti Suzuki India, Mr. Ajay Dhir from Jindal Steel, and Mr. Hitesh Arora from Max New York Life. And then speaking against the motion, we also have 3 CIOs here and leaders, Mr. Vijay Sethi from Hero Honda, Mr. Ashok Wahi from Jaypee Business School, and Mr. Seoni from Ernst & Young. So what we will do is we'll start with the team that is for the motion, and here's simplistically how this is going to work. Each of them will get 3 minutes. So we will start with Rajesh, who will speak for the motion for 3 minutes, and then we'll move to Mr. Sethi, who will actually speak against the motion for 3 minutes. So we will have 3 minutes for each of them. We'll start for, then we'll go against, then we'll go back to for against. After we go through the 6 of them, which is 3 minutes each, which hopefully will be about 20 minutes or so in total, with the transition time, we will have one member of each team get up for 3 minutes and really provide the rebuttal, which is essentially the rebuttal of what the other team has said. So that then actually will be the 2 teams concluding. And then after that, we're going to open it up for a number of you to actually share your perspectives. And we've had actually a huge number of you that have volunteered to speak. So we've actually picked 3 names of CIOs in the room that I'm going to call upon. And then we'll open it up to the rest of you for also to share your perspective. So that essentially is how we'll run this. And by the way, at the end of this, we will have a vote. So please do keep track and sort of hear out the perspectives. And we'll have you vote on how many of you are going to vote for the motion and how many of you are going to vote against the motion. So that, in a nutshell, is how this will run. So all that being said, let me now open it up to Rajesh Uppal.
Thanks, Rajan. I mean, Rajan has made my life much, much simpler by citing examples of people already becoming CEOs. So I don't think there's need for a debate now. But, Huh? Okay. But I think one thing very, very clear for all of us, and many of us have gone the journey right from EDP age of IT to a CIO age now. And the role of CIO really has changed over the years. I think all of us believe that, and all of us have been performing that role. And that shift has happened gradually from one kind of area of delivering solutions to be IT consultant to advisor to today being part of the business team. Incidentally, I was inducted to Maruti's board as one of the members invited to the board for the discussion a few weeks back. And one reason for very clearly is as organization recognized that IT as part of the board discussion is very, very critical for the organization. And today, the role of CIO, as I feel over there, is not to be an advisor, not to be a consultant, and not to be a solution provider. I think role what we play over there is being part of the business decision making along with them. Whether my marketing is sitting and building a rural strategy, or my production is sitting and building how to enhance my capacities over there and all. IT is always there sitting with them to put up all those process and advising them how you can exploit technology to do your work better, So it's not a role of advisor and all, it's basically working with them to demonstrate that we can do business better in the organization. So the role of CIO definitely is not the same which used to be a few years back or few, back. So that role has been continuously changing, Now, in order to perform that role, instantly I was, browsing and seeing that, okay, what kind of profile does a CIO should have? In fact, in our organization, we have very, very strong internal competency monitoring process, where we see what are the competencies required at CXO level or at the leadership level, and how do we develop those competencies each one of them. And those competencies at CXO level are very similar for, at a level of business unit heads at CIO or CFOs together, we look at that. And there are 5 competencies we look at predominantly at CXO level or a CEO level and all. Very clearly, your ability to think strategically. And we have a lot of tools where we track those competencies in individuals in the organization, and we see how does each individual is performing on those competencies by evaluating through 360s, through evaluation centers, and so on and so forth. Very clearly, your ability to think strategically and able to execute effectively on that. That's something first competency we look at each level of CEOs and CXOs. We look at your people empathy part of it, how to manage your team, how to manage your subordinate, how to manage your customers, your colleagues, and your stakeholders. So that's second part of the competency we look at. Obsession for learning every time. So you are a person who is learning all the time and are trying to see that how can you be more learned with every day going on. Your integrity and ethics, I think that goes without saying. Each one of us has to demonstrate that. And last, your passion to continuously improving your way of working and continuously improving the area in which you are working on. So when I looked at these competencies, I see these competencies are required to perform a CIO role today. Not really at CEO role, but CIO role also you need very same competency to look at that. So if the competency required and your measurement required on competencies are same, and today if you want to perform those kind of role at CIO and all, you need to have those competencies in place. So if you are effective CIO, means that you are ready to go into a CEO role. I think is the debate which is going on. Only thing is you have to be effective CIO because you should have those competencies in you. So that's the thing. So I personally feel that as a CIO, if you have those competencies, you're leading and you're taking a role of that role in an organization, you are ready to be a CEO in the organization going forward. Yes, there's a lot of legacy in the industry today. CIO has been doing those so-called techie role for a long time, and maybe they are not seen by CEOs to be really able, but that role slowly are changing, and that's coming up. That's my view on this. Thank you.
Great. Okay, let's have Vijay Sethi from Hero Honda now go against. 3 minutes from Vijay on against. Sorry. Okay.
Good evening. Thanks, Rajan. Thanks, Rajesh. And of course, thanks to the Panamrinder and all. I think the debate that we are having, from my perspective, is a debate of heart versus head. Our heart feels that, yes, the CIOs can become CEOs. But let's talk about what our head says. We heard about what the role of a CEO is. But let's look at what is the role of CEO. A role of CEO is to ensure for a company there's a top line is met, bottom line is met, all my stakeholders are happy. Stakeholders could be my board members, it could be my shareholders, it could be employees, vendors, dealers, everybody. Now what does a CIO do? Let's look at that. Most of the companies, I'll say most of the companies, IT is a cost center. It's a support function. The CIOs are not groomed, not at all groomed to look at profits. They don't look at profit versus loss. They don't look at growth. They are given a budget, 20 crores, 100 crores to 200 crores, and they have to ensure that whatever is being given to them, they contain within that. So I don't think they can ever become CEOs from that perspective. Most of the CIOs think that they know processes of the company very well, so they can be easily groomed into a CEO. Just because I've implemented an ERP, I know all the processes in a company. Just because I've implemented CRM, I understand how marketing is done. Sorry, please go to market and sell 1 unit. I'll then see. Please face the investors. Today, if a CEO stands in front of a CIO, maybe a media person or a board member, and they ask him a simple question, do you think what is the impact of pigs crisis on, at the end of the day, your share price? No, most of the CIOs won't even know what pigs crisis is or what pigs is. Forget the crisis part of it. And then how it will relate to commodity prices or oil prices and finally my cost of my product, they won't even understand that. So I don't know how. Managing IT teams, yes, we can manage IT teams and that's one of the key things. But CEO manages those 10,000 workers also. He also manages 5,000 other employees. That's a totally different ball game. So I don't think the CIOs are even groomed. I'll take one more point and then I'll move on to the next part. We think we are very good at processes. I think CIOs are the best person. You give them anything, they'll try to put it in a framework. Can it be done this way, this way, this way, all those things. And we'll put everything in a structured format. That's how we have been kind of groomed into. I don't know how many of us have read a book called In Search of Excellence by Tom Peters. Tom Peters then wrote one more book, Thriving on Chaos. I don't know how many of us have read that. That has one single line in that. The companies who have done exceptionally well are those companies where CEOs have really managed the chaos very well. But as CIOs, are we groomed to really manage chaos? Sorry, we are taught, you are given a business problem, you are given an issue, please make an IT system out of it. Please give an IT solution to it. But what CEOs, if they look at the same business problem, same business requirement, they'll see, how can I make an opportunity out of this? So making an opportunity out of a thing is quite different from making an IT solution. So, Mr. Chairperson, my only summation is that this debate is just a head versus heart. Till CIOs change themselves, they can never become CEOs.
Yeah. Thank you, Vijay. Now let's move back to the team that's for the motion. Mr. Ajay Dhir from Jindal Steel.
Good evening. First of all, let's congratulate Mr. Rajesh Uppal. He's been recently elevated to the board level and the top management group of his organization. That proves that a CIO can rise to the levels of the CEO or beyond the C-suite, which is normally the CIO level. I have also been a CEO. And I have seen both sides, how to run a business, how to manage operations, and how to manage people, including industrial relations also. If you look at the attributes, what are required for CIOs to become successful CEOs, what is required? We just had a very nice presentation by Dhir, which showed towards the end the STL Center. And that's precisely what is needed: strategy, technology, leadership. If you look at these three attributes and the CIOs who are having aspirations to become CEOs, all could not become, but a lot of them will be having aspirations and they can come to this level. If they develop these skills, definitely this is one level of the acceptability. Second level is the three other pillars, what we call the people, process, business and technology. If we just come and align ourselves and look at the people aspect, we are very well groomed towards the managing of the people. The processes, Vijay was saying, of course we are adept in managing processes. Business, with such a close insight of business that we have had over so many years, you understand every nuance of the business and we are expected to do that also. And of course technology, we are supposed to be knowing and adept in managing technology. I would say a CIO in an organization is one of the good examples of coming to the board and becoming a CEO. If the chief HR officer or the chief marketing officer or the chief procurement officer can aspire to be the CEO, why not the CIO? We should do that. And that's why I'm very strongly in favor of this. And I would encourage all CIOs to have their aspirations alive, keep themselves up to date with not just technology, which is required, and we are supposed to be masters of that, but with the people, processes, and the business skills also. Develop our skills in strategy and technology and the leadership, which is what these forums provide. And there you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Now let's move to the team that's speaking against the motion, Mr. Ashok Wahi from Jaypee Business School.
Okay, my proposition on this is very simple. Do the CIOs have the intellect to become CEOs? Yes, there's no doubt. Do they have the emotional capability? That is where the question comes up. So it's more the IQ versus the EQ. They have the IQ for it, but probably don't have the EQ for it. Why do I say that? Let me give you examples. CIOs are typically inward looking. They look inside the organization. They don't look outside the organization, or have very little to do with the outside the organization except for vendors. And that too only technology vendors and geeks and so on and so forth. Whereas a CEO largely spends his time outside the organization. He networks, and not network only the Facebook variety or Twitter variety, real networks into the CIIs and the ASOCHAMs and the FICIs of this world, because he has friends everywhere, and that is where he sort of helps drive business. So the emotional quotient is important. Now let me give you another example of the emotional quotient. CIOs are trained to look at things in a very detailed fashion, analyze it to the last degree of detail, and then take a decision, but that decision making is very slow because he can't take a on his feet spur of the moment decision. Whereas a CEO is more often forced to take a decision on the spot, on his feet. So does he have that capability? And how well does he communicate his decision? Because a CEO is a great CEO if he can communicate his decision well. CIOs are poor communicators normally. Okay, there are exceptions, so I'm not saying that exceptions make the rule, but the reality is most CIOs have communication as an issue. Dealing with abstraction, tolerating all sorts of people is what CEOs have to deal with. CIOs find it very difficult. Anyone who makes an error is hauled up. Anyone who makes a sort of silly problem in the program is hauled up. So his thinking about situations in a CIO's mind is very black and white. It's not gray. And life is actually gray. CEOs know how to deal with the various shades of gray, whereas CIOs typically deal only with ones and zeros. So from that perspective, I think the sort of the mental makeup or the emotional makeup or the attitudinal makeup of CIOs is very different. But there are exceptions, and the suggestion I have is that if CIOs really aspire to become CEOs, they have to make IT or information systems a real game changer. They really have to use it as a new innovation in the business to take it to a new plane, to actually change the business model of the organization by trying to put new ideas, new ways of doing business, new mechanics of delivering products, services, etc., so that the business finds value in them and says, here is a CIO who's really contributed and therefore is a good candidate for becoming a CEO, because then he can lead that business, because he's created a business which is something which is based on a totally innovative business model. So from that perspective, these are some of the issues. Taking that heart versus head debate further, which actually is the same as IQ versus EQ in a way, the discussion on the head or sort of thinking through problems, analyzing problems, debating things like that has brought you to the CIO level. But is it going to take you there? We were talking about that book about what has brought you here will not take you there, and that's exactly what we are talking about. To just put it in a lighter fashion, a coin has two sides. So if the head doesn't work, what will work? Well, start using your tail, wagging your tail, and maybe you'll become CEOs. Thank you.
Okay, now going back to the team that's for the motion, Mr. Hitesh Arora, Max New York Life Insurance.
Thank you, Rajan. Thank you for inviting me here. I think it's great, and being on this panel is feeling me. I'm actually moving towards CEO level. Looks like because the four team is already we have one of the board members. Already we have one of the CEOs. So who's stopping us? There's no one. It's we who stop ourselves. We do believe that there's a glass ceiling for CIOs. We can't go out of that glass ceiling. I think that's the glass ceiling which we have to break ourselves. We have to move ahead. We have to take one step forward and get out of the technology, get out the comfort zone where we are. And I think we can be there. Why? Because what do we today? I think the days have gone when we were EDP managers. The day is gone when we were more busy in generating reports. The day is gone when we are more busy in, generating and looking into data and, kind of getting in challenges as to where to keep servers and what to do and on the technology jargons, I think the day is today of business intelligence which we deliver. The day is today we know exactly each and every strategic area other company is doing. As a CIO, you are involved in each and every decision making, in each and every aspect of the company today. We have complete knowledge. The only stuff is that we today look at only from a technology perspective. If we take one step forward and look from a business perspective, the way is going to change. That's the piece. That's one step which we have to take. And I do believe that we have to take ourselves. I can take enough examples where people have moved. Now from a percentage perspective, if I see how many marketing guys have become CEOs, of course you will have more percentage. But let's see how many of those percentage people have become CEOs from CIOs, and let's see how they have become. They have broken their glass ceilings. They have they've got out of their comfort zones. They have brought the heart and mind together and said, we can deliver it. We can deliver it. Why not? If we can deliver a technology solution which is core to the company, it's only we who can step forward and pick up what is the business challenges. We know what business challenges are today. Look from a overall perspective. What is a CIO? He is a strategic thinker. Is he not? Don't we think long-term basis? We always think what is going to help us from a technology perspective, from a cost perspective. The only mindset we need to jump out is look from a profit and loss. How many times we taken a step forward and look from a profit and loss perspective? I look from that perspective. When I get into CFO discussions, I look from a different perspective. So it's only you have to take one step forward and get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your technology. Get out of your vendor management. Get into customer management. You are there. It is not easy, of course. It's you. That's where the heart and mind has to come together, and you have to take that step. And we have to, break that particular aspect and move forward. I particularly believe, that what is a board looking forward to you? It is looking for in a person a conviction, in a person a passion, in a person understanding of business. And of course, that has to be displayed. You can't, I can't carry a dream in my heart and not even talk about it. Because a dream in a heart will always be dream in a heart. Somebody, when I saw a CEO who was, and I'm giving a more crude example from a different industry perspective, but from an insurance industry perspective, I came across this CEO who is not even a qualified MBA, who is not even qualified, person from an education perspective, but he was a CEO of a large insurance company. And when I interacted with him, how he became, he said, I only carry my dreams in my wallet. I wrote down that I want to be a CEO of a company someday. When I start writing my dreams, I start working towards that. It's a nice way to look into it, That's where he wrote. And he showed me, my next dream is to move and get into this particular place. And he showed to me, this is where, and I'm going to move in. So that's where it is. So I do believe we have all the chance. I do believe we are well qualified. I do believe we know what we need to do. But I need to only say that either it's a glass ceiling or it's a rice ball. We have to break either of them and get out of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I don't have much to say because everything seems to have been covered. What I would like to say is that CIOs and CEOs are two different types of people. It's not that there's somebody who's better or somebody who's worse. Do we really say that we don't have the capability? No, I don't think so. What we are saying is, in this debate, we are saying, I'm a CIO, I will automatically become a CEO. And the debate is no, it's not an automatic movement. You have to change your track. So what I want to drive here is, we are talking of capabilities, yes, but I didn't choose to do that job, right? There are many CIOs who are very happy as CIOs, and we don't really want to just say that, look, a promotion to CEO. No, it's not that. Well, yes, it's our nature, it's our profile, and it's our liking, which really is making us what we are. So today we are CIOs, we have certain strengths, those have all been listed. CEOs also have certain strengths, they may be slightly different, but I don't think that's very difficult to learn those strengths and learn and build on them. But the main difference is that I think that the drive. So if you have the drive, I'm sure you can change track and become a CEO. And becoming a CEO of an IT company, probably that's a little easier if you're a CIO. Becoming a CEO of an automobile manufacturing company, that will be much more difficult, right? But still, it's not something which is not doable. But I really want to focus on just one point, that this is not an automatic promotion. And the debate is that a CIO is automatically going to become a CEO. It's not that. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. Well, now we are going to have one team member from each of the teams spend 3 minutes on their rebuttal. So, shall we have the team who's representing? Okay, Rajesh, go ahead.
I think by the end of the debate, my other counterpart has started always saying, the point which Rajeev made in the end very clearly is not that, do no automated transfer, you need to prepare for it. And I'm also very, very strongly with him. They're also saying same thing. They have capabilities, they have to prepare to take up that job. That's what we are also saying that. So I don't think our competition is really saying that it's not possible to do that. They also started saying that it's also possible to do that. Okay, coming to the point of, how to do that is something, I'd like to share some of the point which, Vijay and other made on that. He said, not grooming to be CEO and, they are just a budget keepers and all. I don't think that's role is the perception carried by many of the colleagues of CEOs that they are into that. But that role need to be, and that's the responsibility of all the CIOs to change that perception around. So that today the main problem of this automated transfer is that the perception of CIO around the world is all around the community is that they are the technology people. They know how to do bits and bytes, and they know how to provide solutions and all. The role has changed, and many of our colleagues have been doing that work. But the budget manager, that's something which is today, and especially with the a strong outsourcing solutions available, with strong cloud kind of technologies coming out now, where technologies are taken as granted now. They are available as a commodity to you. I think your role is more changing toward how to business support do. In fact, for last 3-4 years, in addition to IT, I was handling logistics for Maruti, which is a pure play business, and and had issues where I did some deduction in pricing for the freight rates and all truckers came and said, okay, we'll not pick up the vehicle from tomorrow onward. So those challenges do come in when you go in for business. It's all your ability or your your ability to handle, or you should have those business trade to handle those kind of situations. You handle those with managing your people onto providing solution on time. You manage those with your vendors to provide on time. You manage those projects for delivery for the organization on time. So those are something which is, those kind of capabilities are already there with them. Is all given opportunity to them to deliver and all is something which is important to look at that and all. And something like not capable to take decision on time and all, I don't believe into that at all. Given a chance, they will definitely deliver that. And I'll again go by the point which everybody is saying that it's not automatic, and I 100% agree with them. It's not automatic promotion to take CEO. It is that each CIO has to develop those. They have to identify that what are the capability I need to develop and all, and build on those capabilities to be a CEO and all. That's the process which any CIO has to go through if he want to become a CEO, and that he has to go through. Thank you so much.
Ajay? The rebuttal against the motion.
Okay. So we heard what Rajesh had to say in his rebuttal, but I heard what Rajesh, Ajay and Hitesh said, and all of you also heard. We know Rajesh has gone and become a board member. We also heard Hitesh's friend who has become CEO of some insurance company, as he said. But I don't know how many of us have heard of a person called Aristotle. He once said one thing: one swallow doesn't make a summer. Just because one person or two persons out of a community of millions actually gets into that, that doesn't mean that CIOs become excellent CEOs themselves. Sorry, I don't agree. Exceptions will always be there. In India, if you look at Bombay Stock Exchange, there are 5,000 listed companies. If you look at unlisted companies, there will be millions of unlisted companies in India. Can we say 1%? 0.1%? 0.01%? Maybe we can go on for more zeros. But how many of those CEOs would be actually those who would have been a career CIOs? Yes, you might be some business manager for a year, 2 years, you might be handling IT department as CIO and then become a CEO. Then he is not a CIO who's become a kind of CEO. Sorry, it doesn't actually. Then I also heard somewhere where I think Ajay said that the CEO has to work on STL, strategy, technology, leadership, something. What is our strategy? Sorry. What is the strategy that CIOs look at? IT strategy? 50% of it would come from HPs and IBMs and SAPs of this world. They will come do an assessment and tell you that this should be. I didn't name Microsoft for a change.
Thank you, Vijay.
But they will come, they'll tell you, can we do a one-day workshop, see what are your pain points for next 2-3 years, and let's develop a strategy. Can you really develop a business strategy like that? Or do you really even get insights of developing a business strategy from that? No. Technology, yes, all of us would understand how a PC or a server works. I'm saying could, but that's a fact. I don't know whether you know. I don't know how a server works. Okay, but do we really know how the technology of the company works? How do I make motorcycles? How do I make cars? How do I make insurance products? How is the policy being generated? Or the various things coming in the insurance policy? That is the technology from business perspective. This is not the servers, PCs, laptops that we have. Leadership, yes, we can manage 40, 50, 100 guys and some vendors, as I think was rightly pointed out. But can we manage our dealers? Can we manage our customers? Have we ever managed workers? That's a different ball game. So I'm not too sure whether. And then I think Rajesh listed a lot of competencies, and I agree with each of those competencies. They are generic. They are true for CIO, CXO, CFO, CMO, all those. And all of us should have. But just because we have those competencies, or at least we think we have those competencies, that doesn't make us to become CEOs. Sorry, I don't agree. And Ajay, I think, said that all of us aspire. Yes, I started with that. It's heart versus head. All of us aspire. But can we become? The motion is, can we become excellent CEOs? Aspirations are fine. I can aspire to become anybody, but can I really become? Okay. Last point. And I don't know how many of us are carrying our mobile phone, which is also has email enabled. There's an email which came in around 5 p.m. today. If some of you have subscribed to CIO Word, that's one of those things which I have subscribed. Around 5, while I was just coming out of office, it came in. So the first article is an article by George Colony. Okay, George Colony is the CEO of Forrester, so-called. Gartner is one research firm. Forrester is an equally large research firm. 16% of worldwide large company CEOs mention IT in their annual reports. Rest 84% don't even care to mention about IT in the annual report. Forget grooming the CIO to become a CEO. Sorry. Okay. One more statistics I know, and now I'll come back to Microsoft, and that was the reason why I didn't come to Microsoft at that time. Okay. We started, and Rajesh rightly started that Rajan has given us. Those 84% has lot of technology companies. The topmost, Microsoft. Microsoft's internal IT is not mentioned in even the annual report. HP, IBM, Dell. Shall I name some more? So, what are we talking? The CEO thinks that, yes, IT is an enabler, transformer, it will help me get 2 more things, might be reducing my product cost, improving productivity by 1%. But CEO is a different animal. He is not a CIO. And CIO is someone who just takes the internal, and Ashok rightly said, he is one who is internally looking, ensuring everything works. But CEO is something who is external looking. So I don't see as to why we should not win the debate. That was the marketing pitch.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vijay. Okay, now we're going to do this where we're going to have CIOs who are in the audience. So as I mentioned, there were a large number of requests of folks who wanted to share their views. So here's how it's going to go. We've got 3 CIOs, again, from the audience for the motion, and 3 who we picked against the motion. So we went ahead and actually selected these names, and then we'll open it up to the rest. My only request is, as I call out the name, do we have a microphone that can be sent around? Okay, great. I'll call out the name. If you can keep your set of statements to 1 minute. So we're going to start with a number of folks we've selected 4. I'm going to go 1 for, 1 against. Sunil Sirohi from NIIT. So Sunil will speak for the motion. Where is Sunil? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hi. So listening to Vijay, it kind of reminded me of a good old joke where someone said, CIO, what does it stand for? It said carrier is over. And I think all the guys sitting on the against side seem to have chosen that as one piece in their kind of, understanding. So I think let's look at the other way around. CIO today stands for, to me at least, stands for craving is on. Craving is on for what? To innovate, to make business profitable, to take new technology, to improve processes, to ensure that we are leading the business together with the business leaders. CIO is no longer that little role, and as we have said, it is the old age theory of being a CIO, that EDP man or the project man or the just one IT stuff. Today, good part is all the businesses are running IT. All the businesses are becoming dependent on technology, and everybody is becoming more dependent on it. It doesn't on its own mean that, yes, we will run it. But yes, the good part is the craving is on to innovate, the craving is on to make things better. And if that is there with all of us, I'm sure there is one little piece going ahead. A small thing which reminds me of Edison. It said 1% of inspiration, 99% perspiration. Now the dream, as Hitesh said, if you have, yes, you will work for that. But if you have already chosen career is over, too bad. You've given it up. And one little piece probably is that if a CIO only concentrates on technology at the expense of business, I don't think you will remain a CIO even for long. So let all of us think together and figure out, are we choosing career is over? Are we choosing to become, yes, the next level of the leadership, which I think is CEO, and it remains within us to take it forward from there. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sunil. Okay, now we're going to go to somebody who's going to speak against the motion. Rajesh Munjal from Hertz and Easy Cabs. It's over here.
Thank you. I don't think that against people are not willing to become the CEO. They are definitely willing to be CEO. But yes, they are looking towards the leaders, or they say that who are for how to become. It is not that, my personal view, it's not like that the people who are against are not, but the challenge is that what all has to be done to become CEO. We cannot sell internal business application which we have implemented in the organization and tell them that, boss, you're going to be profitable by this percentage. We cannot tell that. We cannot sell internally. How can we sell externally? We have challenges in managing teams, 40 people, 50 people, 100 people. The manufacturing company are handling 10,000 people, 15,000 people. They are managing leaders. We are attending leadership summits. We are attending leadership councils, and we are understanding how the leaders work. So there is a big gap. It's not that, yes, people, definitely, from my heart, like Vijay said, from my heart, I would like to become CEO. But my mind says that you have to go through various stages. You have to first understand the business, which is more critical. We are implementing internal ERPs, and that's thanks to business. They give us input. That's the reason our business application are implemented. In case business doesn't give us any input, the application will not implement it. Sunil said career is over. That's not. First of all, we have to sell internally. Then only we can look out for external. First of all, we have to show the value. Value, everybody knows about value, but likewise, we just said that 14% or 16% of CI has been shown in the Forrester report. Why 86% people or companies have not shown IT as a report, in their report? So the challenge here is basically we are a support function. First of all, we have to come as a line function. We understand the processes. That's thanks to businesses. we cannot implement any application, anything, unless it is approved by the business. So why? Why can't we sell internally and tell them, boss, this is going to give you this profit? First of all, he will not understand. Once he understands, he will try that all the things that can delay the project, because that's the last priority, unless that comes to somewhere their sales. So it is basically that I personally feel that CIO can become CEO, but there is a long way to go and understand that entire steps before becoming the CEO. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rajesh. Okay, now we're going to go back to the form motion. Again, keep it to a minute, please. Suresh Kumar from Grant Thornton. Where's Suresh? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I think we have had quite a good debate already, and I strongly believe that there is nothing you can achieve in life without perspiring. So you have to make efforts, and very, very important that that sentence is not just a sentence. Change is the only constant. I strongly believe in that. I started my career as a graduate engineer and working on technology and playing with it. Soon I started realizing, and I think in our career path we all start realizing that at some point of time when you reach the highest point in technology leadership within your company, where do you go from there? So it's something like what Sunil already mentioned, career is over. So either you choose CIO as career is over, or choose a better option, Chief Innovation Officer. You start innovating for your business, start showing that you can directly make the difference, knowing different business processes of the company and knowing the people and understanding areas like finance and top line, bottom line to the heart. You start believing that you can make a difference to the business of the firm, and once you start believing it, then you will have to work strongly for it. You have a very clear path and your plan to reach that level. You put in that extra effort, and I'm sure you can seriously make that difference, and you can become CEOs. Once unless until you start believing, you won't work towards it, and there's no way then you can move to that kind of a level. I can share my personal experience, just like Rajesh. I have for long I have had that internal IT kind of a role, and very recently I have taken a role where I am working as a partner and in a firm where I am responsible for business growth, and that's a step which I have taken for myself, and I am sure every one of us can do the same. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Suresh. Okay, now moving to the against the motion, Aditya Mani from Aquis. Aditya is over here.
Yeah, on a lighter note, I think in our organization they say CEO means criticize everyone. Anyway, so in
my team will agree.
Back in college, I mean, we deep in our hearts, all of us do want to become CEOs. And I did my college in California, and we were right next to the boat club, and we saw a lot of these CEOs come there. And one thing that typically, like an engineer, I decided to do a sample, and I tried to figure out what is it that CEOs have. So they all speak very well, they dress very well, and they all know how to play golf. So I thought this is the magic formula how to become a CEO. But really, I mean, if I look back to how we've all worked up, as engineers, we kind of focused on looking at a little piece of technology that we had to take care of when we got out of school. And after that, we became managers and we started looking at teams. So it wasn't that we were good at that piece of technology. It's just that we moved up one level of abstraction in the leadership ladder. Similarly, when we moved from being managers to C-level executives, what happened is we started looking at it from the organization as the whole. Now, again, the next level of abstraction after this is the moving from inward to outward and looking at multiple stakeholders, which has already been said. So I don't want to sound trite, but that's the key right here, and that is not automatic. Just like how the past promotions, we do have examples of a lot of people who didn't get promoted. The pyramid is such that it's narrower as you go up. So the promotion is not going to be we have to figure out that the CEO is one level of abstraction above another C-level officer. The second thing is it's not going to be automatic till you look outward, till you start looking at multiple stakeholders, shareholders, employees, how they think, how the organization thinks, what nimbleness and strategy is, and from everyone's perspective, from finance operations. So that I think is the key change that we need to think about.
Great, thank you, Aditya. Okay, now we're going to go to the final speaker for the motion, Narayanan Ganeshan from Metso Minerals, over
there. Good evening, colleagues. I will take a minute more extra. Sorry. Mr. Sethi, you were saying that one in a sample will not make a difference. There is a there is a saying in English: 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. Okay, I can also put like that. It might take 1,000 years to become. And never mind. At least you have started that step. Okay. Have you ever seen the South Indians cooking the rice? If you have a pot, they don't check the entire rice. They check only one. So the question is that whether you have taken the first step. Okay, let me start with the conversation. I went to my boss, who is the CEO of the company. I said, this is a topic. What do you say about it? He said, what is wrong in that? You are already a CEO of an organization. I said, how? He said, you are running an IT company, and the IT company has the following parameters. He said, you have a visionary, you have an innovation, and you plan yourself that how the organization grows in another 5 years, what are all the IT parameters that you have to define. You have a budget, you are a business leader, you do cost cutting, and you have a relationship management. And more to that, you do a selling internally to the 5,000 people within the organization. So you are a CEO to your own organization, so you are coming to me. Then I realized CEO is not by choice. It's by attitude. There is no defined factor that only an X job function can become a CEO. A salesman can become a CEO, a lawyer can become a CEO, and an engineer can become a CEO. Why not CIO? In order to be a CIO of the organization, you have to be innovative. It comes with the leadership. And then I started looking at the internet. In 1990s, 3Com was headed by one gentleman, I don't remember the name. He came from CIO. Compaq Computers came from CIO. And today IDBI is headed by a CIO. I can give you so many examples. Unfortunately, internet do not have all examples. So in my thing, it is not that you can't. You can, and we can, and we will. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Narayana. Okay, now let's move to the final speaker for the against motion, Atul Luthra from PVR Cinemas.
Good evening, everyone. I think we have said one thing very clearly, that when we go to the board meetings, everything, I think when a challenge is faced, when all the eyes turns to a CIO is to get a technology solution. I agree on that. But does all challenges have technology solutions? There might be solutions which are not technology based. I'm sure CIO is not looked at that time. So that is where the main differences between CIO becoming a CEO, because all challenges that a business faces are not technology based, and CIO can give only technology solutions maximum time because he thinks technology. From day one to last day, he's thinking everything on technology, nothing else. So my feeling is that a CIO cannot become a CEO until he comes out of that technology barrier somewhere, and that is very difficult to come out because from the way he starts his career is technology. So he thinks 0 and 1 only. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Atul. So that then brings us to, I think, with the folks who want to go for the motion. So if any of you in the room are for the motion, let's have this gentleman over here. Just please tell us your name, and if you could keep your comments to a minute. For the motion over here.
Sunil Gupta from Ministry of Steel. I'm sorry, Mr. Rajan, it's neither for neither against. It's a bit neutral, and you can make out it's for what. I'll just start with a very small example, crude example. Somebody asked Amitabh Bachchan, why don't you go to Hollywood movies? He said, why? Do you think Hollywood is superior? No. Only thing, the culture is different. Don't think Hollywood is superior to Bollywood. It's only we have different cultures. So maybe we may not, fix each other. Similarly, I think CIO, it's not a question CIO can become or not. It's only a role of CIO is, I think, much more important than CEO. He is the today custodian of information, which is the most primary resource of any management, any technology, even much higher than people, process, or technology. So information is the most precious tool. He is the custodian of that. Not only custodian, he is the management of that, and once he has the information, he knows every in and out. The thing is that, does he really want to aspire to become a CEO? If he is not, he can become. The only thing is his choice.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't want or he can't. It's his choice, only thing. But don't think it's superior or it's inferior.
He's a watchdog. Absolutely. Next topic of debate will be, will CEOs make great CIOs? Yeah, come. Let's move it over there. Let's now go, we are now going to go to against, so we'll flip-flop. Folks who are against, yeah?
My name is Rajan Ghosh from GAIL India Limited. Surprisingly, an observation, all of them who were against the CEO motion was looking like, or they're sounding like CEOs, and the rest of the people are really sounding like CIOs. So that's the first observation. And second thing, all of us have, those who are not pure IT companies, they have not only in the board level or in the management level, even in the lower level, have the biggest challenge to make people business managers from technical managers. Everybody thinks technical and nitty-gritties, business thinking. Business process are important, but business thinking is a different ballgame. That's there. I'll give a small example. I incidentally arrived at a BPO summit. Then all the technology people were in the BPOs. Genesis, then Emphasis, and all of them. And then some of them were asking that, how come you are here? You are a GAIL India Limited gas and BPO summit. What you are doing here? All the BPO people asked. I told, don't you care about your customers? I could be your potential customer. Then they were very surprised. How can you be our potential customer? Then one of these questions answers, I posed these questions that GAIL, ONGC and Indian Oil, the gas and oil companies, are expanding, spending 50,000 crores, 70,000 crores in last coming 5 years. Now, have you ever thought that a business pie of that you can achieve? You are just thinking about some foreign companies outsourcing of the back office integrations and do that. The huge business potentials. Who thinks about it? Believe me. Chief of Genesis told me that, Mr. Ghosh, in the interval, you will be flooded with business cards. And it happened. And after that, I'm floored and flattered with business cards. And every day, somebody of these BPO companies are coming to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now we're just going to take two more. So we'll go here and there. Are you for or against?
I'm for.
Okay, let's start. Let's go with you.
I'm Vineet Dhaya. I represent InfoExon Technologies. There are three observations. One is we have discussed more of personality types here. Personality A, CIO, personality B, CEO. So I think it's not personality A versus personality B, but it is more about what it takes to achieve a CEO role. Now, I think it is more of team management. So if you have good team around, and if you can manage a good competent team around, you're not expected to know each and everything. I once heard Vineet Nair of HCL when he was speaking in Harvard Insight. He said the first thing I did when I became the CEO, I owned up what I didn't know, and my team was there to fill that gap for me. So it is not that we need to know each and everything from day one. Second thing, I think why CIO could make better CEOs is, I think somebody mentioned managing in chaos. I think the topmost thing you require managing in chaos is if you can manage your risk pretty well. If you can identify and manage risks. And I think CIOs are the best person because they day in and day out, they keep on identifying and managing risks. So I think that's the quality which can take them to become a CEO. And then is the innovation. So we can think of companies like who have thought of Airtel being the largest music supplier company in the country. They were a telecom player, but it's just because the CIO has stepped in and has changed the game entirely and has created services which are fetching them revenues which are even more than the traditional revenue generating areas. We can think of Apple and any other company. So I think risk management, innovation, and the team management, CIOs can very well become the CEOs.
Great, thank you. One last person against the motion. Okay, we need one who's against, and then, yes, and then we're going to wrap up. Huh? Yeah, go ahead. Let's get a mic over there for against the motion.
It's an emotional topic. People have already said that the people who are against are already CEOs.
Can we get a mic over there?
So for us, career is not emotional.
Thank you. My name is Alok Gupta, and I actually wear both the hats in two different companies, one of a CEO and one of a CIO. But I'm going to talk about against, and I'm going to support Vijay and team. So one point has already been said, that CIOs, they never go to a golf course, or they never actually take any, chartered flights or go into yachts. So I think, one is that they don't have extravagant lifestyle. Second is that how many of them really go to Whartons, Harvards, and IIMs? These schools are extremely important, and I think that's one of the qualifications which most of the CEOs have today. Third point, I have read, a strategic selling matrix from Miller Hyman, and he talked about, a matrix which had 4 boxes. One is an economic user, second is a technology influence, third is the user, and fourth is a coach. Now, CIOs always fall in the technology matrix, which is considered to be a gatekeeper, whereas CEOs fall into the economic bracket, which has the signing power of the dollars with them. So I think, CIOs have a long way to go to become CEOs. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, it's time for the big vote now. So hopefully you're all clear on which team you're going to vote for. So we're going to basically do this by raising of hands, and maybe Tapan and I can get your help to count the number. So we're going to start with all of you who are voting for the motion. Tapan, will you count?
I think
we can both count. Why don't we?
We'll do an estimate.
No, let's count. 1, 2. Look, you're all CIOs. I'm mathematical. Let's count. Let's see. Only one hand, huh? Only one hand per. Okay, so we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. It's going to be close. 39. No, I'm the moderator. Okay. Now we're going to have those of you who vote against the motion. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. What did you get? 34.
So we lost.
So who won? The four motion. Let's give the.
I will most comment. Only CIOs will take such a vote because it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, just to wrap up, let me just give a couple of comments. You know, it's very interesting. I mean, that's actually one of the closest votes you can probably ever have on any topic. So firstly, let me thank our speakers. We greatly appreciate your taking the time to be here. So Rajesh, Ajay, and Hitesh who've spoken for the motion, as well as Vijay, Ashok, and Rajeev. Against the motion, Sunil, Suresh, and Narayanan, as well as Rajesh, Aditya, and Atul from the audience, as well as all of you who expressed your points of view. You know, as I stated at the beginning of this topic, it's a very interesting topic. In fact, about a year ago, we launched a piece of extensive research in India, and the topic was not exactly the same, but somewhat similar, which was called Board Readiness of CIOs. It was to determine the readiness of CIOs to get to the board, and obviously getting to the CEO is one step beyond that as well. And I've actually asked my team to share with you just the research so you can get to read it. I think some of you have probably seen that already. And in many ways, actually, a lot of the themes that you all talked about are quite very consistent with the research that we did. And through the course of this research, we actually surveyed CIOs, CEOs, CFOs, heads of HR, as well as other CXOs like heads of marketing. And the question was posed as to what percentage of CIOs were ready for the board. And I'm going to share some interesting statistics. 46% of the CIOs thought they were ready for the board. Actually, you know, so it's pretty interesting. About half this room, you know, is sort of ready for the board. Now, what's interesting is, so that's very good, right? That's actually a pretty good, so it's a pretty good self-confidence indicator of CIOs. 50% of heads of HR actually thought that the CIOs were ready for the board. So half your HR leaders, you know, think pretty highly of you, right? So that's pretty good. And not you meaning, you know, the community at large. 23% of the CEOs felt that their CIOs were ready for the board. It's actually a pretty good fact, by the way. 23%, so a quarter of the CEOs that we surveyed, and it was a good cross-section of very large companies, mid-sized companies, and smaller companies, but mostly very large and mid-sized companies. So 23%, a quarter of CEOs actually think that their CIOs are board ready. So I think, just to echo, I think one of the things that was said is, maybe you should ask. You know, I mean, one of the things that's, you know, it's about aspiration and wanting the role. So actually, you know, I think getting to the board. Now, what's interesting is your best friend in the organization actually thought that only 12% of them think you're ready. So the CFOs, only 12% of the CFOs thought that their CIOs were ready to actually get to the board. So I just thought I'd share that with you. We've got a lot of research. And in many ways, the findings of the research were very consistent with the discussion that we had today. I think there was a great acknowledgement that the role of the CIO has evolved immensely over the last decade. And there was also a very strong recognition that the CIOs bring to the table many capabilities that give them the ability and the capabilities to be successful at the board level, and then obviously over a period of time to be successful as CEOs. So very process oriented, and because of the process orientation, actually it's interesting, more than 70% of the CEOs thought that CIOs understood processes very well and therefore had real insight to the business. So the whole notion of knowing processes, right? They also felt that CIOs were very analytical and therefore were able to dissect a problem and actually make decisions, etc., and so on and so forth. However, at the same time, you know, one of the questions we asked is, what are the 2 or 3 capabilities that CIOs need to develop to accelerate their journey towards the board, and obviously in this discussion, accelerate their journey towards being a CEO. And it was very consistent with, I think, what a number of things that Vijay, Ashish, and Rajeev kind of talked about. And a lot of it really centered around an external focus. You know, I have to tell you this little story. I have a field IT leader who's my CIO in India. I have a simple mandate. 2 days a week, he's going to call on customers. That's it. Every 2 days, he's calling on customers. He's made, like, I think 180 customer visits this year. So it's a very interesting thing because that gives you external focus, right? So one was external focus. The second one was also, I think all of you kind of talked about it, which is not just understanding a business process, but really having business insight and driving innovation. I think a number of you said Chief Innovation Officer. So that's a capability that I think the folks want to talk, and you all talked about this in spades. And I think the third one was really about managing across boundaries. I think all of us acknowledge, and I think all of you would acknowledge, CIOs have gotten very good at managing their IT teams. But the more senior you get, especially to get to the board, it's really about managing peer relationships and what I call managing across boundaries. And that came across, I think, both in what you all said as well as in the research that we said. And the last thing that was very interesting was also very consistent with one of the things that I think Vijay had mentioned, which is this whole notion of managing chaos, which is this ability to be very dynamic and change very rapidly. Everybody loved I think as was said in this forum as well, the fact that CIOs are very structured, very process-oriented, very analytical, very thoughtful, plays very well most of the time. But then, CEOs get, either keep their jobs or lose their jobs by making decisions sometimes very, very quickly when you're in sort of a crisis situation, etc. So it's all very consistent. I think I think the last thing I'd like to leave you all with, what came across today is that there is a lot of aspiration. And I think, if I was to pick one camp, I would say I've always believed in the theory of aspiration, which is if you really want it and you really, really want it, then it's a question of going after it. And I think, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you again, CII, for giving us this opportunity to spend time with you. Thank you again to all the folks up on the stage as well as all of you. And I wish you all the best. I think it's a terrific journey and wish you all the best.
Hello. To sum it up,